The sniper detection. One of Daredevil's most impressive radar sense feats happened when he detected a sniper from blocks away. Matt was walking through Hell's Kitchen when he suddenly stopped, tilted his head, and identified a sniper positioning himself 3 buildings over. But he didn't just sense the person. He detected the specific metallic composition of the rifle, the oil on the barrel, and even the sniper's elevated heart rate indicating intent to kill. What makes this remarkable is the level of detail his radar sense provided. Matt could tell the difference between someone holding a camera and someone holding a sniper rifle based purely on materials, weight distribution, and breathing patterns. He calculated the sniper's line of sight and moved the target out of the kill zone seconds before the shot was fired. This wasn't just sensing danger. It was processing multiple data points simultaneously to predict and prevent an assassination. The sniper never even knew he'd been detected until his target had vanished from view, leaving him confused and exposed on that rooftop. Reading through heartbeats. Matt's radar sense allows him to function as a human lie detector, but it goes far beyond simply hearing heartbeats. During interrogations, he monitors blood pressure changes through arterial dilation, tracks respiratory patterns, detects micro-expressions through facial muscle movements, and even senses temperature changes through infrared signatures his radar picks up. In one scene, Matt questioned a witness who seemed genuinely confused. Her heart rate was steady, but he detected a temperature increase around her temporal arteries, indicating cognitive effort beyond simple recall. Her breathing showed deliberate control, the kind people use when carefully choosing their words. Her sweat composition became more acidic when lying. Matt concluded she wasn't confused. She was performing confusion while concealing what she actually knew. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Matt doesn't just detect lies in the moment, he can track patterns of deception over time. By remembering someone's baseline physiological responses, he can identify when they're being more or less truthful than usual. He's built a mental database of tells that makes him nearly impossible to deceive, turning every conversation into an interrogation, whether the other person realizes it or not. The raindrops navigation. Perhaps the most visually stunning use came during a rainstorm. While rain would normally create overwhelming noise, Matt used it to his advantage in a way that redefined how we understand his powers. Each raindrop became a sonar ping, and as thousands of drops hit surfaces throughout the city, they created a complete 3-dimensional map of his environment. Matt was pursuing a suspect through a construction zone during a downpour. He stopped, tilted his head back, and let the rain hit his face. As drops fell on buildings, scaffolding, and people, each impact created a distinct sound signature. The rain hitting the suspect's leather jacket sounded different from rain hitting concrete. The pattern of rain around the suspect's moving body created a void in the otherwise uniform rainfall pattern. Matt tracked this void through the construction site like watching a ghost move through a curtain of water. He could tell when the suspect ducked under cover because the rain pattern above changed. He knew when they climbed scaffolding because rain falling from higher levels hit them differently than rain from lower levels. The suspect thought the storm gave them cover, but Matt turned their advantage into their downfall. Every drop that fell became his eyes, creating a sensory net so fine that escape was impossible. Detecting poison. Matt's radar sense can detect chemical compositions at a molecular level. During a dinner meeting, he was served wine that his host claimed was rare vintage. As he held the glass, his radar sense analyzed the liquid's density, viscosity, and molecular structure based on how sound waves traveled through it. The wine's acoustic signature was wrong. There was an additional compound that made the liquid slightly more viscous and altered its sound profile. Matt pretended to drink while his radar sense detected the compound's interaction with organic tissue. It caused microscopic cellular response that generated heat. This was poison, designed to cause heart failure that would look natural, probably undetectable in a standard autopsy. Matt set down the glass and continued the conversation, never revealing what he knew. He turned the assassination attempt into an intelligence-gathering opportunity, noting who had access to the wine, who was watching his reaction, and who seemed disappointed when he survived the evening. His would-be killer had no idea they'd been caught until much later, when Matt used that information to dismantle their entire operation. The vibration reading. Matt used building vibrations to monitor an entire criminal meeting happening several floors below him. He couldn't get close enough to hear conversations without being detected, and the building had soundproofing that would normally make eavesdropping impossible. But Matt found another way. He placed his hand against a support column and detected vibrations traveling through the building's structure. Every footstep, every person sitting down, every fist pounded on a table sent vibrations through the floor that traveled up through the building's frame. Matt identified how many people were in the room based on distinct weight distributions. He knew when someone stood up aggressively because the vibration pattern changed from static weight to dynamic movement. More impressively, he could determine the emotional state of the meeting by analyzing vibration patterns. When people argued, their movements became more aggressive, creating sharper, more intense vibrations. When someone pulled a gun, the metallic resonance traveled through the floor as the weapon was drawn from its holster. Matt mapped the entire room's layout, knew where each person sat, and understood the meeting's dynamics without hearing a single word. When the meeting ended and people began leaving, he'd already identified which target to follow based on their behavior patterns throughout the discussion. The powder trace. Matt once tracked a suspect through New York City by following microscopic particles invisible to the naked eye. The suspect had been in a room where cocaine was stored and packaged. Even though they'd changed clothes and showered, Matt's radar sense could detect residual particles that clung to their hair and skin. Cocaine particles have a specific crystalline structure that interacts with sound waves in a unique way. As Matt moved through the city, his radar sense detected these microscopic crystals suspended in the air behind the suspect. The trail was invisible to everyone else, but to Matt it was like following a glowing path. He could tell how recently the suspect had passed by based on particle density in the air. He knew which doorways they'd touched because particles transferred from their hands to surfaces. Even more remarkably, Matt could differentiate this suspect's particle trail from other drug dealers in the area because each batch of cocaine has a slightly different composition based on cutting agents used. The suspect's trail had a specific signature that included levamisole, a common cutting agent, in a particular ratio. Matt followed this chemical fingerprint across 12 city blocks, through subway stations, and into a safe house that would have been impossible to locate otherwise. The suspect thought they were being careful, covering their tracks, but Matt was reading a story written in molecules. The bullet tracking. During a rooftop confrontation, Matt demonstrated perhaps his most death-defying use of radar sense. He tracked bullets in flight. This sounds impossible, but Matt's perception of time changes when his radar sense is fully engaged. What seems instant to others slows down in his perception. When the first shot was fired, his radar sense detected the gunpowder ignition, the bullet leaving the barrel, and the projectile's trajectory. The bullet displaced air as it traveled, creating a pressure wave his radar could follow. In the fraction of a second between the gun firing and the bullet reaching him, Matt processed the trajectory and moved his head 6 inches to the left. But he wasn't just dodging one bullet. There were 4 shooters firing simultaneously. Matt's radar created a 3-dimensional map of all 4 bullets' trajectories in real time. He twisted his body, letting one bullet pass under his arm. He dropped into a crouch, allowing another to sail over his head. He tilted his torso, and the 3rd bullet passed through the space where his chest had been a microsecond before. The 4th bullet was going to hit him no matter what, so he shifted slightly so it would strike his armored chest piece rather than his unprotected side. All of this happened in less than 2 seconds. To the shooters, it looked like Matt had miraculously avoided 4 simultaneous shots through impossible luck. But it wasn't luck. It was his radar sense processing ballistic data faster than any computer, and his body executing movements with perfect precision. The shooters were so rattled by what they'd witnessed that their next shots went wild, giving Matt the opening he needed to take them down. The electrical current mapping. Matt's radar sense can detect electromagnetic fields, which he used when infiltrating a building with advanced security. The building had motion sensors, pressure plates, laser grids, and camera coverage that made it supposedly impenetrable. But all of these systems ran on electricity, and electricity creates electromagnetic fields that Matt's radar can sense. Before entering, he stood outside and mapped the entire security system through the walls. He sensed electrical currents running through motion sensors, identifying each sensor's location by the small electromagnetic field it generated. Laser grids created detectable power signatures at their emitters and receivers. Cameras drew power constantly, creating steady EM fields that Matt could pinpoint with precision. But he didn't just detect the system. He understood its logic. By following electrical currents through the building's wiring, Matt figured out which systems connected to which control panels, which alarms would trigger together, and which sensors covered which zones. He found dead zones where sensor coverage overlapped in ways that created blind spots. He identified backup power supplies and figured out which systems would fail first if power was cut. Matt entered through a ventilation shaft he'd identified as having no sensor coverage due to a wiring oversight. He moved through the building like a ghost, following paths his electromagnetic mapping revealed as safe. When he needed to cross a hallway covered by motion sensors, he waited until a nearby industrial refrigerator's compressor kicked on, knowing the electromagnetic interference would create a brief window where the sensors would be less reliable. The security team monitoring the cameras never saw a thing because Matt understood their system better than they did. The weather prediction. In one of the most subtle demonstrations of his radar sense's range, Matt predicted weather changes before they happened. He was on a rooftop discussing strategy with an ally who wanted to move immediately. Matt said they needed to wait 30 minutes. When asked why, he said a storm was coming. His ally checked their phone. The weather forecast showed clear skies for hours. Matt was insistent. 28 minutes later, the storm hit exactly as he'd predicted. Matt's radar sense can detect atmospheric pressure changes at a distance of several miles. As a storm system approaches, it creates pressure differentials that affect how sound travels through the air. Temperature gradients form at the leading edge of weather systems, and these create detectable variations in air density. Matt sensed these changes before any weather monitoring system registered them. He could tell it would be a violent storm because the pressure differential was unusually steep. He knew it would hit in 30 minutes based on the rate of atmospheric change and wind speed at different altitudes, which he detected by listening to how sound traveled at various heights. This wasn't just sensing a storm. It was performing complex meteorological calculations using nothing but his radar sense and an intuitive understanding of weather patterns built over years of constant atmospheric monitoring. When the storm hit with lightning and thunder, Matt used it as cover for their operation, turning nature itself into an ally. The heartbeat GPS. Perhaps the most emotionally powerful use came when Matt tracked Karen Page through a crowded city. She was in danger, but Matt had no idea where she was. She wasn't answering her phone, and she could have been anywhere in Hell's Kitchen. What Matt did next demonstrated just how intimately his radar sense could know another person. Matt had spent enough time with Karen that he'd memorized her heartbeat signature, not just the rhythm, but the unique characteristics of her specific cardiovascular system. The slight irregularity in her left ventricle that most people would never notice. The specific frequency her heart valves made when opening and closing. The exact pressure wave her pulse created as it traveled through her arteries. Matt stood on a rooftop and extended his radar sense to its absolute maximum range. He filtered out millions of heartbeats, listening for that one specific signature. It was like finding a single instrument in an orchestra of thousands, except the orchestra was an entire city's worth of human hearts. The concentration required was immense. He had to block out every other sound, every other heartbeat, every distraction, and focus on that one unique rhythm he knew as well as his own. He found her 3 blocks away, in a basement, her heart beating faster than normal. She was afraid, but he didn't just find her. He could tell she was injured based on how her cardiovascular system was compensating for blood loss. Her heart was working harder to maintain pressure, and the rhythm showed early signs of shock. Matt used this information to coordinate with emergency services while racing to her location, potentially saving her life because his radar sense didn't just detect her presence, it diagnosed her medical condition from 3 blocks away. The structural weakness detection. During a fight in a condemned building, Matt analyzed the structure in real time. His radar sense detected which support beams had rust, weakening their integrity by the way sound resonated through corroded metal. He identified which floor sections had compromised joists based on how they vibrated under weight. Matt maneuvered his opponents into specific positions. When he had them where he wanted them, he struck a support column he'd identified as already failing. The floor beneath his enemies gave way, dropping them into the basement while Matt was positioned on a section he knew would hold. He'd demolished part of the building with surgical precision using structural engineering calculations performed during a life-or-death fight. The crowd anomaly detection. In crowded Times Square, Matt detected a threat invisible to security cameras. A person was walking normally on the surface, but Matt's radar sense detected something wrong. Their gait showed conscious control rather than natural movement. Their heart rate was elevated but controlled, showing trained stress management. They had a weight distribution that didn't match their body size, carrying something heavy and concealed. Matt's radar sense identified the concealed object's acoustic signature. It was dense, metallic in certain areas, and contained electronic components creating faint electromagnetic interference. Matt recognized it as an explosive device based purely on its physical properties. His intervention, guided by his radar sense reading subtle anomalies in a crowd of thousands, prevented a tragedy. These examples show that Daredevil's radar sense isn't just a superpower that lets him see without eyes. It's a sophisticated sensory system providing information in ways vision never could. Matt doesn't just navigate the world despite his blindness, he perceives dimensions of reality that sighted people can't access. So what do you think? Which use of Daredevil's radar sense impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the abilities and secrets of Marvel's heroes. See you in the next video.